Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from AnthonyMorganti.com. This is episode 5 of the video series where we're going over all the different plugins put out by Nik Software. In this episode, we're going to take a look at HDR Efex Pro 2. Now, as you can see down here in the film strip, I have a bracketed set of 7 images. And one question I often get from folks that are interested in doing HDR is how many images should they shoot in their bracket? Well, there really isn't a correct answer for that. It really is up to you. And I encourage you to experiment a little bit and see what works for you. For me, what I usually do is if I'm shooting into the sun, I'm shooting a sunset like this, I'll tend to take more shots, more bracketed shots. The reason being is you have this very bright area where the sun is, and then you have this very dark area, in this case, where this pier is. So there's a big range of luminance levels, and I want to make sure that I capture all those luminance levels. So I will take more shots than I might if I was just shooting on a cloudy day. So another situation would be if I was shooting in a basilica or a cathedral or something like that, and it had big stained glass windows and it was very sunny outside. Of course, the windows are going to be very bright, but the pews, maybe the altar would be dark. So there's a big range of luminance levels there. So I'll take 7 bracketed shots in a church like that. Again, if it was cloudy and I was outside and there was no really direction of sun from any specific area, then I might only take 5. Now I know some folks that would take 3 in that situation. I know some folks that might take 9 in other situations. So it's really up to you. Now with this specific image, I took 7. And as I look at it, I really don't need all 7 though. So for example, if I look at this darkest one, this one is 3 stops underexposed. And there really is no detail anywhere except a little bit in the sky. And as I look at this one, which is 2 stops underexposed, I have pretty much the same detail. 1 stop underexposed, pretty much the same detail. This image was what my camera thought was the correct exposure, and actually it's a tiny bit underexposed. This one that is 1 stop overexposed looks more correct, to my eyes at least, as the correct exposure. This one is 2 stops overexposed, and this one is 3 stops overexposed. Well, just glancing at them, I know I'd like to use this one that is 3 stops overexposed because it's giving me some detail in the shadows. So I want to make sure that that is represented in my HDR image. So I'm going to take that one. I don't think I need to take this one, but this one has some detail in the water down here that I'm going to take that. So that's 1 stop overexposed. So I'm going to take 3 stops overexposed, 1 stop overexposed, and I think this one that is 1 stop underexposed is the other one I'll be taking. So 1 stop underexposed, 1 stop overexposed, and 3 stops overexposed. And again, I just kind of eyeballed them and figured out where some overlapping area was that I really only needed 1 image. And if there was 2 images that had a section of them that was overlapping, I just chose one of them. In this case, I made sure that they were spread out 1 step apart. So this one, and that one. Now, the other question I get is how much Lightroom processing do you do? Now, let's not confuse this with the merge to HDR feature that is in Lightroom 6 and Lightroom CC, because that usually I won't do any processing at all on the individual images, because that returns a raw file when you're done, and then I do all my processing on that new raw file. When you're sending it over to a plugin, in this case, Nik Software's HDR Efex Pro 2, um, Lightroom is going to create TIFF files and send those TIFF files over to the plugin. And you always lose a little bit when you go from RAW to TIFF. And then HDR Efex Pro 2 is going to take those 3 TIFF files, in this case 3, and it's going to create 1 TIFF file. So you might lose a little more data. So in that instance, when I'm doing it that way, I like to just do lens corrections. Now, I know some folks, again, there's no right answer. I know some folks that will process them completely till they're happy with them in Lightroom and then send them over to their HDR plugin that they're using. But for me, I'm just going to do Enable Profile Corrections and Remove Chromatic Aberration. Now I did it to this image. I have to do it to the other two. So I'm going to hold the Command key in because I'm using a Mac. If you have a PC, hold the Control key, and I'm going to click on the other two images, and that just selected them so they're active. I'm going to go over here to Sync, and I'm just syncing lens corrections, so that's the only thing checked, and I'm going to click Synchronize. Now those images are synced. Now I'm ready to send them over to HDR Efex Pro 2. Now typically with plugins, you could right click and you go down to Edit In. Well, you'll find that HDR Efex Pro 2 is not there. What you have to do is for this specific plugin, you have to go down to Export HDR Efex Pro 2. You also could go to File, Export with Preset, down to HDR Efex Pro 2. So what it's going to do now, it's going to take these three images, and Lightroom is creating TIFF files. And it's going to send those three TIFF files over to HDR Efex Pro 2. Then a dialog box will pop up from HDR Efex Pro 2 asking us some questions. And you'll see hopefully in a second here, it will pop up. And there it is. And now what you see along the top is these are our three images. And it's considering the one that I actually had one stop overexposed, at least my camera said was one stop overexposed, as my zero exposure. That's fine. It doesn't matter what these numbers are down here. It really doesn't matter. But these are the three images. And over here on the right, we have some checkboxes. First is alignment. I did use a tripod here, but I always click alignment. So the software will align the images exactly, and that helps so there's no blurring or ghosting. So I always, even if you use a tripod, I recommend you check that box. Now ghost reduction, if you have trees in the scene or some grasses in the scene and it's a little breezy out, there'll be like a ghost effect to them when you create an HDR image. You could click this and then click on the strength going across. And in this preview window, you'll see the effect. And so if you actually see some ghosting in the like image, you could click ghost reduction, then click, let's say, 20% and see if it got rid of it. If it didn't, click 40%. If you can't see this very well because it's too dark, right down here there's a little slider. And what this does is you could brighten up or darken this preview window. This does nothing to the final output. It has nothing to do with the actual creation of your HDR image. This is just so you could better see this image in this preview window. And below ghost reduction, there's chromatic aberration. Now, I did that in Lightroom, but I usually just leave it checked here. If you actually see some chromatic aberration in the image and you're looking at it, and let's say it's cyan, a cyan-like glow on this bar or on these stanchions, you could adjust this slider, or if it's blue, you could adjust this slider. Now, you could click this little magnifying glass, and this will help you with the ghost reduction and the chromatic aberration. What we have now, we're in ghost reduction, and you could kind of look around and see, let's say, put this over the trees, and you could see the ghosts better on the trees, and you could go and click across here to eliminate any ghosting that might be happening. Then click here for chromatic aberration, and then go over an area that you think might have some chromatic aberration, and then you could move these sliders to get rid of that. And when you're done with this, you just hit this little magnifying glass again and it goes away. So in this case, I'm not going to do any ghost reduction. I don't have any grasses or trees in the shot. The water might ghost a little, but that's okay. I don't mind if the water looks a little blurry. That might be a nice effect. So I'm going to leave that not checked and the other two checked. And then we're going to click Create HDR. Now, what it does, it's actually now with it's aligning the images. If you had ghost reduction clicked, it'll actually go through and do ghost reduction. In this case, it isn't, so it just kind of skipped over that. Now it's merging the exposure, and it's going to show us the preview of the exposure, hopefully any second. Okay, now there is the exposure. Let's go up to the preset library and let's maximize this. Okay, the workspace in HDR Efex Pro 2 is just pretty much like all the other Nik plugins. On the left-hand side, you have presets, and the presets are in folders or in collections. And you can see right now we're in the All collection. There's the Architecture collection, Artistic collection, and different collections. Right now, we'll just stay in All. Below that, we have a custom, and this is your own preset that you made. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. And I have one here. Imported, if you buy some presets off the internet or someone sharing some with you, you would go to this tab and you would click this plus button, and that will help you navigate to them on your computer, and you could import them into the program. Also, if you created any of your own and you want to export them so you could sell them or give them to someone else, you would click right here, Export All at the bottom. Now down here is history. Everything we do in HDR Efex Pro 2 is mapped in the history. So we could go back. If we start doing stuff and we don't like it, we could go back a step or 3 or 4 or whatever it takes to get back to where the image was where we liked it. Now, there is a humongous bug in this latest edition of the Nik collection. It's version 1.2.11. Um, the settings on some of the plugins and on not all compute, like it does it on my MacBook Pro, but it doesn't seem to do it on my iMac. Uh, like like I want to open this drop down, see it won't let me. And these like things here, these are all different areas that you would open up and do some settings. See, it's not clicking. When I click cancel, it won't cancel. When I click OK, it won't go away. So this is a settings bug. You can't do any settings with this version 1.2.11 on certain computers. It might work fine on your computer. I don't know. So I want to make you aware of that. There's also another bug, and a more insidious bug that I'm going to show you in a minute. So we're going to leave it, I think. Well, let's go up to the presets. What I would typically do is I would go in and I would try some of the presets. And I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'm not too thrilled with many of the presets that come with HDR Efex Pro 2. So you could go through and just, click on them and see if there's one you like. Um, they don't go on top of each other. One preset completely replaces another preset, all right? So let's just leave it on this deep one right now because I want to show you the different view options. Right now, we're on the single image view. If you want to compare the before and after, you click this little compare button and hold it in. There's before, there's after. There's before, there's after. You also have this split screen where you could take this little slider and go back and forth and see before and after. You could click it right there if you prefer to do it horizontally, or click it there to go back to this vertical line and sliding it horizontally, if that made sense. Okay, then we have a side-by-side view, or this up and down view, and then you could click there and make it a side-by-side view if you so choose. Usually, I just leave it right there. Zoom, you could zoom in and look at specific parts of your image by clicking there, and there's different zoom percentages. Um, right here, this little light bulb changes the color of the border from white to black to gray, and I usually just leave it on gray. Now, as I mentioned, I personally don't care for too many of the presets that are here, although this one doesn't look too bad, a little colorful maybe, but we'll go back to the default. The default is just, nothing. It really didn't do anything. See, I'll hold compare in, nothing's happening, looks the same. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the right. This right panel is where the actual adjustments, I guess for lack of a better term, where the magic occurs. um, Now, it looks like you could go, right in order, and you can. You could go, or you could jump around. You could go in any order. What I found with my personal use of this plugin is that tone compression and tonality. A lot of times I'll adjust tone compression, then I'll go in and do some tonality adjustments, and I find I have to go back to tone compression and, readjust it. or vice versa. Then I thought I'd get smart and I'd do tonality first. Well, when I did tonality first, I then went up to tone compression, did that second, then I found I had to go back to tonality and do some adjustments. So you might have to jump back and forth between these two. Uh, you know, just expect to. It doesn't always happen. I don't know if I'm going to have to on this image, but we'll see. Now we're going to start out in tone compression with that said. And the very first slider is called tone compression. And it's kind of a weird slider. It's kind of a backwards contrast control, but it also adds saturation. For example, typically if you move it to the right, you'd be turning contrast up. Well, when I move it to the right, it seems to turn contrast down, but it seems to increase saturation. And if I move it to the left, it adds contrast and takes away saturation. So it's kind of a weird control. And if you want to put any of these sliders throughout the program back to their detent or default position, just double click right on the slider and it puts it right back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to inch it up a little bit. Now, typically what I will do with these sliders, I will just kind of try them left, try them right, and see if I could narrow in on a zone that I really like. And right about there is okay for the sake of this demonstration. Now, method strength is kind of like a micro contrast or a micro clarity control. And to show you this, I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to go like right here. And let's look like in here. I think this would be a good spot to look. I'm going to take method strength and I'm going to move it all the way to the right. And you could see how it kind of like enhanced the detail of this area. Now watch, I'm going to move method strength all the way to the left. And you can see how it's made it softer looking. So this one here, it's all comes of course down to personal taste. I'm just going to tweak that up just a little bit and then we're going to zoom back out. All right, so that's method strength. Now the actual HDR method. There are three sliders here and they're not, well, they're not really sliders. They're kind of like just like they have spots where you could put them. For example, this first one is the depth slider. And you can see there's this spot right here and it's off. The next spot over where you can't go in between, you can't go in the middle. You either go right there. That's called subtle. Right here is called normal. And right there is called strong. So you just try to, one of these four positions and see if there's a spot you like. And I guess I'm going to leave it on normal. Now the detail is similar except there's, in this case, 5 different spots you could put it. You could put it at soft, realistic, accentuated, detailed, and grungy. As you can see, it is grungy. So I think I liked realistic, or let's see, accentuated. Let's go with accentuated, all right? And now this drama one, this one kind of drives me nuts sometimes because it seems like there's sometimes, I don't know if it's going to do it on this image, a real drastic change between this spot and this spot. And you would kind of hope there'd be a spot in the middle. Let's try it. Right now we're flat. We're natural. Okay, there's deep. Then we go to, yeah, see the difference? Dingy. We go from deep to dingy. And then we go to sharp. And then we go to grainy. I'm going to keep it on deep for that one. Okay, so we're done with this tone compression. Now we might have to come back to it. We're going to go to tonality now. Now, the first slider is just exposure, and I call it a gross exposure control, meaning it adjusts the entire picture. So we could go across and make the whole thing lighter or the whole thing darker. I think the exposure is okay on this. I want to adjust the highlights and the shadows though. So with this shadow control, we could open up the shadows by moving it to the right. And I do want to open them up quite a bit. I want to see some detail underneath this pier. The highlights, on the other hand, I'm going to bring down a little bit. I just like to make the sky a little darker. So I have the shadows a little brighter and the sky a little darker. Contrast, again, this is kind of like a gross contrast control. It adjusts the entire image. So we could turn that up, turn that down. And below that we have blacks and whites, and we could do those independently of each other. Now I'm going to turn a little contrast on this, 28%. We're going to take the blacks and see. Now the blacks, these kind of work backwards. Notice if I go to the right, you'd think you'd be adding contrast to the blacks. You're actually taking it away. And if I go to the left, I'm actually putting it back. So that's kind of odd. But I think we want to add some contrast to the whites because I want to just get these clouds a little more noticeable back there. Structure is kind of like clarity is in Lightroom. And you can see if I go to the right how much, it's kind of like clarity. It adds some structure. And if I go to the other way, it looks a little more like hazy looking. So let's go with a little more structure right there. Now in this case, I don't think I have to go back to tone compression. What you'll find sometimes is after you adjust tonality, you're going to have some haloing. And if that's the case, go back to tone compression and you're going to have to like bring this tone compression method strength down, and you might have to go in and bring one of these, either depth or detail, down a little bit to get rid of the haloing. That's very common with HDR Efex Pro 2. And actually, I'm kind of surprised I don't have severe haloing on this shot. I just kind of got lucky. Now, color is something that today I might adjust it one way, and then tomorrow, if I'm feeling different, I might adjust it a different way. It's really kind of one of those mood things. First of all, there's saturation, and I usually do add a little saturation, but this saturation control really could add a lot. I mean, like it looks like it was done with crayons. So we just be careful with it, and really, your eyes might be getting tired from looking at it so long. Maybe adjust saturation, walk away for 10 minutes, then come back and look at it, and most likely you find you're going to pull it down a little bit. All right. Now temperature is, if I'm in the mood, I might make it warmer or I might make it cooler if I'm in a cool mood. So it kind of depends. Right now, let's make it just a little bit warmer. And if I make temperature warmer by moving this slider to the right, I'll take tint and I'll move it just slightly to the left. And conversely, if I'm going to make it cooler by moving temperature to the left, I'll move tint slightly to the right. So that's just the way I do it. And then color is done. Now, selective adjustments. The strength, of course, of Nik Software are the control points. And if you're so inclined, you could add in control points to here. So you would take a control point. Let's say I want to put it on the sky right here. And it defaults to exposure, contrast, saturation, and structure are your 4 sliders right here. This top slider affects how large of an area you're going to affect. So whatever tone you happen to have this little dropper on, or this little like thumbtack on, those are the tones that are going to be affected by these sliders. So when I turn contrast up, it's affecting those tones that this uh, little thumbtack or dropper is on. So we're going to reset that. Um, there's a little down arrow here, and that will give us the black point, white point. This is temperature, tint, and the method strength. So you could really adjust just about anything with, any of these adjustments with control points if you so choose. And if, let's say you're doing the sky and you're going across, you want to duplicate this one, hold the Alt or Option key, and that's Alt if you have a PC, Option if you have a Mac, and then just drag it over, and you'll actually now have another one that has the exact same adjustments as the previous one. You could then add new ones by clicking here. You could see which part of the image is being affected and what's being affected by the image by clicking this little box over here. Then click it again and they're gone. And then you could get rid of them. Right now, like, I don't think I really need control points on this image, so I'm going to get rid of them. I just selected both by holding my Command key and by clicking on them each. You have a PC, hit the Control key, and it's asking you, do you want to remove them? We're going to go yes. Now this is another bug in the program. See that? It won't go away. Let me see if I do not show. Nope, that won't work either. Yeah, see, there's definitely a lot of bugs here with this program. So we got to do them one at a time. So there's another bug that I didn't even know was there. So selective adjustments really are control points, and that is a very powerful part of Nik Software. Now finishing, I admit I don't do much here. You could put a vignette in here. Um, so you could go down and let's say you could do a black frame. And there's a little expose triangle right here. If you don't see the sliders below it, open it up and you could, change the amount, whether it's dark or white, if it's a circle or a rectangle, and the size, things like that, of any of these black frame. And if you hover over them, it gives you a preview of what it looks like. All right. In this case, I'd rather just use Lightroom if I'm going to use a vignette. So I'm going to not use any vignette at all. I'm going to leave that off. Also, it has a graduated neutral density filter, which is in Lightroom too, and that's where I would prefer to use it. But I'll show you how to use it here. You could have one on top or one on the bottom. So upper tonality, if I move this to the right, you see how it's making it brighter up here. If I move it to the left, it's going to make it darker. So let's just make it ridiculously dark so you could see what I'm telling you these do. For example, now we're going to skip over lower tonality and we're going to go to blend. And if you move it to the right, it will blend it in real gradual. So it's a real gradual graduated filter. If I move blend to the left, it's going to be a very abrupt graduated filter. And you can see the line is right there. Vertical shift just kind of either moves it way up or way down, that line. So you could put it more in the middle, something like that. Rotation is you could tilt it. So you could have it going from the corner or the other corner like that. Now, as I mentioned, I personally don't don't use this graduated filter. I prefer the one in Lightroom. Lower tonality is exactly like upper tonality, except the graduated filter's at the bottom going towards the middle of the image instead, like that. All right? So that's if you're interested in using a graduated filter, you would use that section there. So that's in that part of finishing. Now, there is levels and curves, and this is very similar to levels and curves that's in Lightroom and Photoshop. Actually, this one gives you a little more presets in this drop down. You can see right now we're on neutral, and if you hover, there's film EV1, EV0, EV1, dark contrast, bright contrast, vintage, and Vintage 2 and Vintage 3. So if you see something here that you like, you could pick something there. Now, for the sake of this, I'm not going to do anything. Or you actually could just put points on this and drag it along on your own too, if you so choose. If when you're, want the point off, just drag it off the curve and you get rid of the point. So we're not going to do anything with levels or curves. Now, below all this is the loop and histogram. And right now, it shows the histogram. You could see maybe if you're clipping any, pixels at all, you could look at the histogram. The loop, I don't ever use. It's wherever your cursor is over is going to be magnified down there in that loop. So that's if you so use that. Now that really is how you would process the image. Now if you like this and you want to save this as a preset, you would go over here to where it says custom and you would hit this plus sign right here. Now unfortunately this won't let us do anything because it's a bug in the program. At least on my computer. Maybe on your computer it works. So what you would do is you would give this a name. When you do that, it will be right here, and then you'll be able to use it all the time. Also, you could see like in this preset I called Tony's Crazy HDR, I have this star is colorized. And you can see this star isn't, that star is, and that star is. That means those are favorites. If you go to your favorites folder, those three presets are in there because I clicked on that little star. If I want to add another one, let's say I just go right here and I want to add soft, just click on the star. It's now colorized, and if you look in favorites, soft is there now. So you could just add some of your favorite presets, just hit that star, and they'll be stored there. So you could easily find them. You don't have to go through all 28 presets. And if you made a bunch of presets, you'd have to go through all those. So, okay, I'm happy with this, and I want to save it. Typically, you would just hit save, and you'd save the program. or save the image, it would save itself to the same folder that it came from in Lightroom, and Lightroom would automatically load it back into Lightroom so you could then process it in Lightroom. The bug in this program, which is the insidious bug that I mentioned, is it looks like it's saving, but it doesn't save. It's nowhere to be found on your computer when you're done. I did find a way around it, and I did email, by the way. I emailed uh, Google, which makes the Nik software, and asked them about this, and they haven't got back to me yet. Whenever they do, I will post down in the description below what they tell me. Now, what I found is I have to close Lightroom down. Now, when you go to close Lightroom down, because it's in the middle of an operation, it sent these units or these images over to Color Efex Pro 2. It's telling you there's a task in progress. Don't worry about it. Just quit. Okay? It's going to take a second to quit. We're going to go back to, there it is right there. Okay, now we're back to this. Now we're going to click Save. Okay, now it's going to save the image. And it actually does this when Lightroom is open. So you think it's saving, but it doesn't. So it saves the image and closes down. I don't know what all this stuff is up here. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we're going to go to Lightroom again. We're going to open Lightroom. Now, you would hope it loaded into Lightroom, but it doesn't. So it's not here. We still have just our 7 images, and actually our 3 are still selected. What you need to do now is you need to go to the library module in Lightroom. Then you have to go to library, and you have to go to synchronize folder right there. Now again, this is only if you're experiencing the bug that is in this latest version of HDR Efex Pro 2. If you're not experiencing this bug, do not close Lightroom down, just save it and it will be here. Now you can see it found a photo in the folder. So we're going to synchronize. And there it is. That's our image that we just processed in HDR Efex Pro 2. Now what I'll do now is I'll go to the develop module and I will I'll look and I'll tweak it. I'll tune it up. I didn't like that. Usually I don't have to do, maybe I'll add a little clarity. I don't think I want to add vibrance. Normally though, what I'll do is I'll just go to effects and I'll add my vignette that I like to add to the image, like right there. Not a lot to do. And that's pretty much it for this episode. That gives you an idea of what you could do with HDR Efex Pro 2 and gives you a heads up about some of the bugs that are in the software. And again, I emailed Google on it, but they have not got back to me. And whenever it gets fixed or they get back to me, I will put it in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube or in the write-up on my website below the video. Talking about what Google said about this. Maybe there's something that could be done to fix it. Now, the next 3 videos on Nik Software are going to be on pre-sharpening, output sharpening, and define, which is the noise reduction plugin in Nik Software. So those will be the next 3 videos, and then we'll be done with the entire Nik Software package. And we're still doing the Topaz package too. So that one's going to take a little longer because there's a lot more plugins in that suite. All right, so that's it. I'd like to thank everyone that watches my videos. I truly do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.